How should the Springboks line up for their second test against Australia in the Rugby Championship? Now, I do think this selection is a little bit more complicated than the first test for a couple of reasons. The Springboks have clearly shown that they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels above Australia. Now, does Rassie Erasmus stick with a similar squad, or does he ring the changes and bring in a couple of other guys, give them some more opportunity, just because I think that we can? As always, let me know your guys' opinions down in the comments. I do try and reply to as many as I can. If you haven't, please make sure you absolutely mur that subscribe button. Leave this video a like, and let's get in to this lineup. Now, like I said, I do think there's an opportunity for Rassie Erasmus to ring the changes a little bit and to experiment a little bit with this team. Now, you have to remember that we are building to those All Blacks tests, which are very, very important. So I think Rassie Erasmus is going to have to do a little bit of a balancing act of keeping the experienced guys in, giving some new guys a little bit of opportunity, but still keeping the main frame of the team. Now, starting in that front row, I don't think there's going to be too many changes to the starting front row that started in the first test. I still think we're going to have Ox and France as our starting props, but I do think we will have a change at hooker. We saw that Bongi Monambe went off quite early in that first test against Australia, and apparently that was a tactical decision. They brought Malcolm Marx on, and I do think Malcolm is probably going to start the second test against Australia. So for me, the front row is Ox, Malcolm Marx, France Malherbe. We saw how well France and Ox scrummed last week, so I think Rassie's going to want to keep that momentum going, especially into those games against the All Blacks, and then Malcolm Marx just looks in a little bit better form than Bongi at the moment. We then move into the lock positions. Now, there was a little bit of drama around the lock positions last week where Archias Snyman got injured. They had to make a late change. Ben Jason Dixon slotted into that number 7 role, which meant that Pieter-Steph du Toit had to then play lock and Samuel Murat had to fill in on the bench. Now, again, I don't think Archias Snyman and Ruan Nokia are going to be fit for this test, so we're going to have to go without them, which means that probably just to give opportunity and again to build that depth with some of the younger guys, I do think Rassie's still going to go Earben at 4, but I think he's going to pair him with Salman Murat at 5. Now, again, Rassie did say in a post-match press conference that he was quite happy with Salman Murat's performance off of the bench. I'm still on the fence about Salman. I need to see a little bit more from him, so maybe if he gets the start against Australia, he can really dominate that game and really put his name on the map. So for me, I'm going to go Earben at 4, Salman Murat at 5. And then into the loose forwards, I don't think too much is going to change here. Siya Kolisi is obviously going to start at number 6. I thought he had a very, very good game against Australia. And then at 7, we could either go Ben Jason Dixon or Pieter-Steph du Toit, but I do think Pieter-Steph du Toit is one of the best players in the world. He showed last week again how good he is. So Pieter-Steph for me at 7. I also prefer Pieter-Steph at 7 than at lock. I don't know, I think he's just a little bit more free in that number 7 positions. He's allowed to express himself a little bit more. Then into that number 8 position, do we start Ulrich Lowe or Kwagga Smith? Now, I thought Ulrich had a phenomenal game against Australia, and I don't think much is going to change there. I think Rassie's going to give him the number 8 jersey again ahead of the second test against Australia. Kwagga was really, really good coming off of the bench. I mean, as much as players hate to hear it, Kwagga Smith is one of the best impact players in international rugby at the moment. He came on, he made a steal, he scored a try. That is what you want from an impact player. So for that reason, I'm going to stay with Ulrich Lowe in that forward pack. Now, you might ask me, Jordan, where are we ringing the changes? Well, it's going to come on the bench, and obviously with Malcolm starting, Salman Murat starting, we haven't tinkered too much with the starting pack, just to keep that sort of main frame, the momentum forward. The forwards is what really got the Springboks onto the front foot in that first test, so I don't think we should change too much around that starting pack. We then move in to the back line. Now, here's where it does get a little bit interesting because, I mean, last week we had Grant Williams on the bench and he's been in phenomenal form. Last week we had Andre Pollard on the bench and we know how good Pollard has been. Mani Lebok is probably also in the conversation for this week against Australia. You got Makazole Mapimpi, you got Apelele Fassi, and you got Lukanya that all didn't play last week and could definitely slot in to the Springbok backline. Now, starting with that number 9 position, I do think I would love to see Grant Williams get a start. I said it in last week's video that I thought he was going to start that first test match. Querbus ended up starting. I thought Querbus played a good game, not a great game. He's a little bit more impactful when he comes off the bench for the Springboks, I feel. So I wouldn't mind to see Grant Williams get a start in that number 9 position, which then means we probably need a little bit more experience in that number 10 jersey. I thought Sasha had a very good game. Yes, he was a little bit nervous, but you can expect that. It's only his fifth. It was only his fifth cap, his first start in that Springbok 10 position. He did look very comfortable, made a couple of errors, but all in all, a very, very good performance from him. I just think that Handré Pollard needs to get a little bit more game time because of those All Black tests coming up. I think if Sasha starts the second test against Australia, there's a very, very high likelihood that he starts against the All Blacks. If Handré Pollard starts this test against Australia, then I think there's a very, very high chance that Pollard starts against the All Blacks. Now, there's also the conversation around Manie Libbok. Maybe Libbok should get a go against this Australian side, who the Springboks have shown that we can dominate. Get him some go-forward ball, let him express himself, and let him dust some of the cobwebs off. The only thing is, where does Manie fit in when the All Blacks come to town? Is Manie going to start ahead of Sasha or Handré at the moment? I mean, Sasha will most definitely be on the bench at least for the All Blacks game in that utility back position. So then, does Manie start ahead of Pollard? Does Pollard start ahead of Manie? For me, I think Handré Pollard brings so much experience, and I'm expecting Pollard to start this game Australia in preparation for those All Black tests. So you have the inexperience of Grant Williams at 9, then the experience of Handré Pollard at 10. We then move into the wing positions. Now, Cheslin Kolbe and Kurtley Arendse had phenomenal games last week. So you can't really make a case for why Makazole Mapimpi should be included. I think Cheslin and Kurtley are probably two of the best wingers on the planet at the moment. And I think for continuity's sake, for them to continue this momentum into that 2 games against the All Blacks, it wouldn't make much sense for Rassie to play Makazole in the second test against Australia. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Cheslin or Kurtley's carrying a little bit of niggle, and Makazole needs to fill in for them. Again, Makazole Mapimpi never has a bad game in a Springbok top. So it just depends what Rassie Erasmus wants to do, but I find it very, very hard to believe that he's not going to start Cheslin Kolbe and Kurtley Arendse after that performance last week. So unfortunately, I think Makazole Mapimpi misses out. But then into the centers, and I think this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Again, Jesse Kriel, phenomenal game last week against Australia. That assist try for Kurtley Arendse was phenomenal. Damien de Lende also had a good game. Now, I don't think Damien's going anywhere because we don't have an out-and-out inside center. Lukhanyo could play inside center, and maybe that's something Rassie Erasmus wants to experiment with. I would be very, very surprised to see that. But again, it's Rassie Erasmus. So for me, I'm going to go 12, Damien de Lende. And then 13, although Jesse had a very, very good game last week against Australia, I would not be surprised to see Lukhanyo get a go against this Australian side. And then Rassie's going to have to decide between Jesse or Lukhanyo going into that All Blacks test. So for me, I would experiment with Lukhanyo at 13. I think he had a very, very good game against Portugal, controlling that 12 and 13 channel. And just to give him some more game time, and I mean, if you think back to the 2019 World Cup, how good Lukhanyo was for the Springboks. We're blessed to have a Jesse Kriel and a Lukhanyo. It's a good problem to have. So for me, Damien de Lende, Lukhanyo, and then into that number 15 position. Now, we can go Apelele Fassi, Willie Leroux, or Sasha Feinberg, Mgumazulu. Now, I think it's clear that Rassie and the Springboks see Sasha as sort of the next 10 for the Springboks, so I don't think it would make sense to play him in that 15 position. Willie, for me, had an okay game last week. He made one very, very bad decision where we had a 3-on-1 and he went inside and took contact where he should have given it after Sasha broke the line and really made a very, very good opportunity. So I don't think Willie had a great game, and I think there definitely is a conversation to be had around Apelele Fassi starting this second test against Australia, and that's the way I'm going to go. I think Apelele Fassi deserves a shot against a not a very good opposition, but a way to get that experience against Australia is always a bit of a difficult task. So I would start Apelele Fassi and really experiment with that backline a little bit. We then move over into the bench, and now I think this is where we can get a little bit experimental and ring a lot of the changes in that forward pack. So at hooker, I think I would rest Bongi for this game. Clearly something wasn't right in that first Australian game, which is why he came off and Malcolm Marx came on so early. So for me, I would put Johan Grobler on the bench as the replacement hooker. Then into the prop positions, you can go Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Thomas de Toy, Vincent Koch. So there's a lot of options there. For me, I thought Gerrit Steenkamp had a decent game coming off of the bench, but I do think Thomas du Toit needs a run. So again, I'm going to experiment and ring the changes just to give these guys some experience, just because we are a couple of levels above Australia, and I don't think bringing these guys in is going to affect the result too much. So Johan Grobler, 16, 17, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, 18, Thomas du Toit. So you go for a very inexperienced front row there, and hopefully Ox, Malcolm, and France have done the job in that first half up front and really got us that momentum, and we're a couple tries ahead. Then we do have a little bit of a problem in the lock position. I mean, if Argus Snyman and Ruan Nokia are not fit, then Ben Jason Dixon is going to have to slot in to that lock position, or he's going to have to wear the number 19 jersey, maybe go move to flank, and then Peter Steff joins in there at lock. So 19, I've got Ben Jason Dixon. 20, Marco van Staden. A bit unlucky for him last week, getting that yellow card. I thought he made impact coming off the bench, but unfortunately got that yellow card. I think he's probably going to get another go in that 20 top. 21, we have to go Kwagga Smith. I mean, the impact that man provides, he's just so good for the Springboks off the bench in that number 8 role. So Kwagga Smith definitely there. And then we've gone for a 6-2 split, so we need 2 backs. And I think here is where we can also experiment a little bit. We need a scrum off. It's either Kobus Reinach or Morne van den Berg. I think give an opportunity to Morne. Why not? I mean, Grant Williams is going to give us a good start. He's a quality scrum off. And it's just almost a free shot for Rassie to give Morne van den Berg a little bit more of experience away from home in Australia. You got Andre Pollard steering the ship there at 10, so I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And then 23, I've gone for Sasha Feinberg, Mgumazulu, who again can slot in anywhere 10, 12, 15 wing, wherever he has to slot in. So those are my thoughts on the team for this weekend. Rassie's obviously going to announce the team tomorrow. Let me know your guys' opinions. Who would you start? Who would you bench? What are the combinations that you would play around with? If you haven't, please make sure you absolutely move that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.